Let me tell you something that most people will never have the courage to face. Getting rich isn't complicated. It's not a secret formula hidden in ancient books or some mystery known only to billionaires in glass towers. It's brutally simple. The problem isn't that wealth is hard to understand. The problem is that people don't want to face what's brutal about it. They want the comfort without the sacrifice. They want the rewards without the risk. They want to feel like they're working hard, while never truly stepping outside the safe, predictable little world that keeps them broke. They want to believe that if they just work hard and stay nice, life will eventually reward them. But that's the lie. That's the illusion designed to keep you obedient. The truth Machiavelli understood, is that money flows toward those who see the world as it is, not as they wish it to be. You don't need another motivational speech. You need reality. You need to tear down the illusions that have been sold to you since childhood. Because let's be honest, most people don't want wealth. They want comfort. They want ease. They want approval. And all of those things are traps. Let's rip this open. Society tells you, work hard, stay patient, and you'll be rewarded. But who benefits from that belief? The people above you, the bosses, the owners, the elites, the ones who control the system. They want you predictable. They want you tame. They want you waking up, going to work, paying bills, watching Netflix, and falling asleep, just to repeat it again tomorrow. Because predictable people can be taxed, managed, and replaced. Predictable people never challenge the system. Predictable people never build empires. Machiavelli would laugh at this obedience. He'd say, "You think virtue will make you rich? You think kindness will protect you from the system? Number. Wealth doesn't come to the obedient. It comes to the strategic. It comes to the one who dares to see the game for what it is, a game of power, control, and leverage." Think about it. Most people don't question the script they've been given. They wake up and walk right into a life designed to keep them average. They're told, go to school, get a degree, find a safe job, save money, retire at 65. And what happens? They spend their best years trading time for money, praying for promotions, and dying slowly behind desks they hate. That's not safety. That's slavery disguised as stability. Meanwhile, the few who understand the real game, they play by different rules. They own assets. They control systems. They make decisions that others are too afraid to make. And the funny thing, they're not smarter. They're just braver. They're willing to face the brutal truth that to escape the system, you have to stop obeying it. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine two people. Both start at the same place. Both work hard. But one follows the script. He plays it safe. He saves. He waits. He hopes. 10 years later, he's older, tired, and still stuck. The other decides to break the rules. He studies money. He learns how to sell, how to build, how to create value. He takes risks that scare him. And 10 years later, he owns his time, his income, and his freedom. Same world, same hours, completely different outcomes. That's the brutal truth Machiavelli would remind you of. The system is not designed for your success. It's designed for your obedience. And if you want to break free, you must unlearn everything you've been taught about safety, work, and success. You must stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like an owner. Stop chasing comfort and start chasing control. Stop asking what's safe and start asking what gives me power. Because wealth is not a reward for good behavior. It's a prize for strategic behavior. It's not given to those who wait. It's taken by those who move. And the first move is to wake up. To realize that the comfortable life you've been told to chase is the very thing keeping you trapped. This isn't about greed. It's about freedom. Because when you control your income, you control your life. When you control your time, you control your destiny. And when you control both, no one owns you. That's what wealth really is. Not luxury, not cars, not watches, but control. Machiavelli understood that control is the highest form of power, and money is simply its modern weapon. The question is, are you ready to learn how to use it? Because in the next part, we'll expose the real reasons most people stay broke and the psychological chains that keep them there. But before we get there, remember this. Getting rich is not about genius. It's not about luck. It's about courage. The courage to see the truth, to reject the script, and to act while others dream. The road to wealth is brutally simple, but only the brave ever walk it. Here's the most dangerous part of this whole game. Even after you know the truth, most people will still stay broke. Not because they lack opportunity, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack the psychological strength to break free. You see, poverty isn't just a lack of money. It's a mindset, a deeply ingrained way of thinking that keeps you weak, small, and compliant. And it's not your fault. You've been trained to think this way. Since the moment you were born, you've been programmed to believe in limits. They told you, don't aim too high. Be realistic. Money isn't everything. Just be grateful for what you have. Sounds harmless, right? But that's the poison. Because while you're being taught to shrink, the powerful are being taught to expand. While you're told to save every penny, they're told to make every penny work for them. While you're told to wait, they're told to move. While you're taught to avoid risk, they're taught to control it. This is psychological warfare, and it begins long before you ever touch a dollar. Machiavelli said, men are driven by two principal impulses, love and fear. And when it comes to money, the system uses fear to keep you trapped. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of losing what little you have. That fear is why people settle for less than they're capable of. It's why they never invest, why they never start, why they never act. They tell themselves, I'll do it when the time is right. But the time is never right, because fear never goes away. And so they wait and wait until life passes them by and they realize they traded possibility for comfort. The tragedy is they weren't even living their own life. They were living someone else's plan. Let me break this down. The modern system doesn't just tax your money. It taxes your ambition. It drains your energy with useless work. It distracts you with endless entertainment. It numbs your hunger with convenience. And by the time you realize how much time you've lost, you're too tired to fight back. That's not an accident. That's design. The rich understand human psychology better than anyone else. They know how to use your instincts against you. They understand that humans crave safety, and so they build systems that sell it. Jobs, welfare, loans, security. All designed to keep you dependent and to make you feel grateful for it. Meanwhile, real wealth demands the opposite of safety. It demands exposure. It demands discomfort. It demands a willingness to look foolish, to take losses, to walk alone while everyone else doubts you. But here's the irony. The fear of losing what little you have is exactly what stops you from ever gaining more. Machiavelli wrote that he who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. And when it comes to money, you must learn to command yourself. Because the first enemy is not the government, not your job, not the economy. It's your own conditioning. You can't become rich with the same mindset that keeps you poor. You can't escape the system while thinking like someone built to serve it. You must reprogram your instincts. When everyone else runs from fear, you walk toward it. When others see risk, you see leverage. When others chase comfort, you chase control. This is psychological warfare, and the battlefield is your mind. Let's make it clear. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they're too emotionally weak to face the pain of growth. The road to wealth is uncomfortable. It's lonely. It's uncertain. But that's what filters the masses from the masters. Most people will choose comfort over power. And that's why the system will always win, because it knows you better than you know yourself. Until you break that pattern. Until you start thinking like the predator, not the prey. Because the psychology of poverty isn't just about money. It's about powerlessness. It's about believing you have no control. And the moment you take that control back, even in small ways, you start the process of escaping the trap. So the next time you feel fear about taking a risk, remember, that fear is the signal. That fear means you're facing the barrier that separates the poor from the powerful. Step through it, because every level of wealth demands a new version of you. Not a more comfortable one, a more capable one. Machiavelli would say this: the one who masters himself masters the world. And that's the next step, to build the mindset, discipline, and emotional armor of someone who cannot be broken. Because before you make your first million, you must first make yourself unshakable. Now that you understand the psychology that keeps most people broke, let's go deeper. Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about how you think. The poor think in survival. The rich think in systems. The poor chase income. The rich build engines that print income. The poor focus on saving money. The rich focus on multiplying it. That's the difference between working for money and making money work for you. Machiavelli understood that power belongs to those who control leverage, the ability to make others or systems work in your favor. In politics, that meant controlling people. In today's world, it means controlling resources, information, and attention. Let's make it real. The system most people live in is designed like a maze. You're told to work hard, but the harder you work, the more trapped you become. Because you're trading time, your most valuable asset, for paper that loses value every year. Inflation rises, taxes increase, and while you're running faster, the finish line keeps moving away. That's by design. Meanwhile, the rich don't run in the maze, they own it. They understand the rules, and they use them. When the poor see a paycheck, the rich see a cash flow system. When the poor see a bill, the rich see a tax write-off. When the poor see risk, the rich see opportunity disguised as chaos. This is what Machiavelli would call strategic intelligence, the art of knowing not just how the game works, but where the power flows within it. Think about the economy like a chessboard. Most people are pawns. They move one square at a time, reacting to what's right in front of them. They go to work, get paid, spend money, and repeat. But the rich, they play like kings. Every move is intentional. They think 10 steps ahead. They use other pieces to control the board. And here's the secret. Anyone can learn to play that way. Let me break down the mindset shift. Stop trading time for money. Time is finite. Once it's gone, it never returns. The rich don't sell time. They buy other people's time through systems, automation, and delegation. They use capital to buy freedom. See money as a tool, not a trophy. The poor save for security. The rich invest for power. Every dollar is a soldier. It should be deployed to bring back more soldiers. Build leverage. Leverage is the great multiplier of wealth. That means using assets, technology, media, and people to multiply your efforts. 1 hour of leveraged action can create what would take others a lifetime of labor. That's how empires are built, not by effort alone, but by intelligent design. Machiavelli once wrote that, "Fortune is a woman. To be mastered, you must act boldly." And wealth operates on the same principle. It doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards those who move strategically and decisively. You don't get rich by following rules meant to keep you safe. You get rich by mastering the rules and then bending them in your favor. For example, while most people fear debt, the rich use it. They understand the difference between consumer debt and productive debt. Consumer debt makes you weaker. Cars, clothes, luxuries that lose value. Productive debt makes you stronger. Assets, investments, business systems that produce value. The rich play a different game because they see the game. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. But here's the twist. This isn't just about money. It's about control over your mind, your choices, and your future. When you think like the rich, you begin to detach from the illusions that enslave others. You stop chasing appearances and start building results. You stop reacting emotionally and start acting strategically. That's why the rich don't panic during crises, they prepare for them. They don't see chaos as danger, they see it as discounted opportunity. When the world burns, they buy. When others freeze, they move. And that's why they always come out stronger. You must train your mind to see the patterns others miss. You must learn to think not as a worker, but as an architect, not as a player in the system, but as the one who designs it. Ask yourself, what can I build once and profit from forever? What can I automate, scale, or delegate? How can I create something that works for me even when I sleep? That's the difference. That's how you break the system. Not by fighting it emotionally, but by mastering it logically. Because the truth is, you're not trapped in the system. You're trapped in the belief that you can't escape it. Once that belief dies, everything changes. Machiavelli understood that the first step to power is understanding the mechanisms of control. In your world, those mechanisms are financial. And if you don't control them, they control you. So the goal isn't just to earn more, it's to own more, own your income, own your assets, own your decisions, because ownership is the new throne, and only those who think strategically ever sit on it. Knowing how the rich think is one thing. Becoming rich, that's something else entirely. Because knowledge without execution is just potential energy. Wasted. In this part, we move from understanding to building, because Machiavelli never admired thinkers. He admired doers, those who could take an idea, weaponize it, and turn it into power. That's how you turn strategy into wealth. Let's make this clear. Wealth isn't created by hard work alone. It's created by alignment. When your mind, your actions, and your environment move toward one clear objective, wealth becomes inevitable. But most people never reach that point because they live scattered lives. They try 100 things halfway. They chase trends. They imitate others. They never master one direction long enough to dominate it. Machiavelli would call that weakness, the inability to commit to a single path of conquest. He said, "The one who is always hesitant in his actions will never win." So if you want to build wealth, the first law is choose your battlefield. Pick one path, one domain, and go all in until you conquer it. Whether it's business, investing, media, real estate, or digital assets, pick one empire and build it brick by brick. The second law, create value at scale. Money flows toward those who solve big problems. If you can solve a small problem for one person, you'll get paid once. If you can solve a big problem for thousands, you'll get paid forever. That's leverage, the core of modern wealth. Think about every powerful person today. They control systems that serve millions. They don't just sell a product, they create ecosystems. The goal isn't to work harder. It's to create something that continues working without you. That's how wealth compounds. The third law: protect your power. Once you start to build wealth, you will attract resistance, envy, criticism, manipulation. People will try to guilt you back into mediocrity. They'll call you greedy, ruthless, lucky, privileged. But here's the truth. Every time you rise, you expose the weakness in those who stayed still. They hate you because your progress reminds them of their excuses. That's why Machiavelli warned leaders to be both loved and feared. Because the moment you care too much about being liked, you lose the edge that makes you dangerous. So protect your focus. Protect your energy. Protect your environment. Don't let average people infect your vision with their limits. If they can't see it, they can't build it. And if they can't build it, they'll try to destroy it. You need to become untouchable, not through arrogance, but through control. Control over your emotions, control over your time, control over your responses. The most powerful people don't shout, don't rush, don't react. They move quietly, strategically, and effectively. When Machiavelli wrote The Prince, he wasn't teaching cruelty, he was teaching efficiency. He was showing how to maintain power in a world that constantly tries to take it away. You need that same discipline for wealth. Because once you start building real success, the threats shift from external to internal. You'll battle distraction, complacency, pride, and the illusion that you've made it. That's when most fall. They start enjoying comfort instead of expanding their power. They forget that comfort is the enemy of progress. The wealthy stay rich because they never stop adapting. They evolve with every market, every disruption, every change. While others complain, they pivot. While others retreat, they innovate. That's what separates the players from the predators. Now let's talk about the foundation of all wealth: discipline. Without discipline, your strategy dies in theory. Discipline is the weapon that turns ideas into reality. It's not motivation, it's not excitement. It's the cold, calculated decision to act every day, even when you don't feel like it. The rich are not disciplined because they're special. They're disciplined because they've learned what's at stake. They know what it costs to stay average. They've seen what comfort does. It kills potential quietly, year after year. And that's why they live differently. They invest when others spend. They study when others party. They build when others rest. And over time, the gap between them and everyone else becomes a canyon. This is how wealth is truly built. Not through luck or timing, but through relentless control of one's actions, one's circle, and one's direction. Because the truth is, you can't control the economy. You can't control the market. But you can always control your output, your learning, and your adaptability. Machiavelli said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." That's the essence of wealth. Decisive action, no waiting, no hesitation. Every day you delay is a day someone else gets richer. Every excuse you make is a brick in someone else's empire. So build yours, even if it's slow, even if no one believes in it yet. Because power doesn't show itself immediately. It accumulates in silence. And then one day, it arrives. Undeniable. That's when you'll understand what Machiavelli truly meant by control. The control of yourself, your time, and the game itself. Control. It's the word that separates those who lead from those who follow, those who build empires from those who beg for opportunity. Control is the foundation of power, and without it, wealth crumbles. You can make money, yes, but if you can't control yourself, you'll lose it faster than you earned it. Machiavelli wrote that, "He who becomes master of himself will not be mastered by others." That single line holds the key to every form of wealth, financial, mental, and emotional. Let's start with the first layer, control over emotion. Most people are slaves to how they feel. They chase pleasure, run from pain, and call it living. But every empire collapses when emotions lead. You can't think strategically when you're ruled by reaction. You can't build wealth if your mood dictates your moves. Look at how the system works. It profits from your emotional instability. You buy when you feel envy. You spend when you feel lonely. You escape when you feel bored. You've been trained to use money as medicine for your emotions, and that's how they keep you trapped, broke, distracted, and dependent. But those who rise above it, they learn emotional control as a weapon. They feel, but they don't obey those feelings. They use logic where others use impulse. They wait while others rush. That's power. Because the one who stays calm when everyone else panics wins. Every market crash, every crisis, every emotional storm rewards the one who can remain still and see clearly. And that stillness, that calm, it's not weakness, it's domination. Now the second layer, control over money. Money without mastery is chaos. It amplifies who you already are. If you're careless, it exposes you. If you're disciplined, it empowers you. That's why you see people win the lottery and go broke in a year, because they never learned to control money. Money is energy. It flows toward clarity, structure, and purpose. If you treat it with discipline, it multiplies. If you treat it with emotion, it vanishes. You must control where every dollar goes. You must give every dollar a job. And more importantly, you must understand that money serves you, not the other way around. Machiavelli would say that gold is a servant of power, not its master. Use it to buy leverage. Use it to buy freedom, never to buy validation. When you use money to impress, you lose it. When you use money to build systems, you multiply it. And this is where the third layer comes in, control over power itself. Because once you begin to rise, you will face a new danger, the illusion of invincibility. Power intoxicates. It makes you feel untouchable, superior, chosen. But the moment you believe you're above discipline, you're already falling. Machiavelli warned that the downfall of rulers comes when they grow arrogant, when they stop adapting, stop learning, stop fearing weakness. You must remain sharp. The rich don't stay rich by chance. They stay rich by control. They track their assets. They understand their leverage. They know exactly who can hurt them and how. And that's the mindset you must build. Not paranoia. Awareness. Control doesn't mean rigidity. It means readiness. You move with precision, not panic. You plan 3 steps ahead, and you always know the cost of every move. Because power and money without control are like a sword in the hands of a child. Impressive, but dangerous. So you must become both the sword and the hand that wields it. Here's how. Control your time. Time is your most valuable currency. Guard it with discipline. Every hour you waste feeding distraction, you're feeding someone else's empire. Control your environment. If you surround yourself with the weak, you'll become weak. Power is contagious, but so is mediocrity. Protect your circle like a fortress. Control your image. In the modern world, perception is power. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. He said, "Men judge more by the eye than by the hand." What people see often matters more than what you do. Craft your image intentionally. Command respect before you even speak. Control your narrative. Never let others define who you are. The powerful control the story. About themselves, their success, and their purpose. If you don't shape your own story, someone else will shape it for you and use it against you. Control is not about domination over others. It's about mastery over yourself in a world built to distract you. Once you have that, no one can manipulate you. No crisis can shake you. No loss can destroy you. Because even when the world is burning, your mind remains still, calculating, aware, ready. That's the essence of Machiavellian wealth. Cold logic wrapped in composure, emotion tempered by control, power guided by discipline. You become the eye of the storm, calm, centered, unstoppable. Because the truth is this: you don't need to control everything. You just need to control yourself, and everything else bends to that strength. There's one final step, the point where all the lessons come together. You've learned to see the truth. You've understood the psychology. You've broken the system, built power, and mastered control. Now comes the highest level of wealth, becoming untouchable. Because the true rich, the truly powerful, they don't just have money. They have immunity. They move through the world untouched by fear, crisis, or chaos. They don't rely on luck. They don't pray for stability. They create it. That's what it means to be untouchable. To reach a point where nothing external can destroy your foundation. Let's make this clear. Being untouchable doesn't mean isolation. It means independence. You are no longer controlled by emotion, approval, or circumstance. When others panic, you think. When others freeze, you move. When others need permission, you act. You no longer live at the mercy of systems, because you've built your own. Machiavelli would call this the sovereignty of the self. A ruler who depends on no one for power cannot be overthrown, and the same law applies to your life. So how do you reach that level? How do you become untouchable? It begins with financial sovereignty. That means your income doesn't depend on a single source. No employer can silence you. No system can punish you for disobedience. Your money works for you, whether you're awake or asleep. It means you own assets, businesses, investments, intellectual property, things that generate wealth without your constant labor. Financial sovereignty buys freedom, and freedom is the soil where power grows. But there's another kind of sovereignty: mental independence. That's when you stop needing validation. You stop chasing approval. You stop explaining your decisions to people who don't even understand your vision. You no longer ask, "What will they think?" Because you've realized they're not thinking about you. They're too busy fighting their own battles, trapped in their own fears. And that's the secret. The crowd is too distracted to ever build anything great. You become untouchable the moment you stop trying to be understood by the average. Machiavelli would remind you that greatness demands isolation, not loneliness, discipline, the quiet where strategy grows, the space where vision sharpens, the calm where power concentrates. Untouchable men and women don't scream for attention. They move in silence, and the world eventually has no choice but to notice. But to reach that level, you must conquer one final enemy: your own ego. Because as you grow, as you win, as you rise, your ego will whisper, "You've made it. You're better than them. You don't need to learn anymore." That's the trap. Ego is the parasite that kills empires from within. It blinds you to change. It deafens you to truth. It convinces you that control is permanent, when in reality it must be maintained every single day. Machiavelli warned that the downfall of the powerful begins when they believe their fortune will last forever. Because power, like wealth, is fluid. It rewards vigilance, not arrogance. So the final law is this: never stop becoming sharper. Your body, your mind, your strategy must always be evolving. The game never stops, and neither can you. You read, you learn, you study patterns. You sharpen your perception until you can feel shifts before they happen. You build networks, not friends. You collect influence, not applause. You play for decades, not weekends. That's how you stay untouchable. Not because the world stops attacking, but because you've built yourself into something it cannot harm. You'll still face storms. You'll still face betrayal, loss, and chaos. But by then, you'll understand. Those aren't threats. They're tests. Each one refines you. Each one strips away weakness. Each one brings you closer to mastery. Because the goal isn't to avoid struggle. It's to become the kind of person struggle can't break. That's what Machiavelli would have respected most. Not the wealth, not the fame, but the unshakable will behind it. You see, being untouchable isn't about invincibility. It's about adaptability. You can lose everything and rebuild it. You can face rejection and use it as fuel. You can be betrayed and still move forward with precision and purpose. Nothing stops you. Nothing shakes you. Because your foundation isn't built on comfort. It's built on control, strategy, and relentless self-mastery. That's what the journey of wealth truly is. Not the accumulation of money, but the transformation of character. The day you stop being controlled by fear, by emotion, by systems, that's the day you become untouchable. And when you reach that level, you realize something profound. Getting rich was never the goal. It was the training ground. It was the path that forced you to become disciplined, dangerous, and aware. It was how you learned the laws of power, the psychology of influence, and the art of control. Wealth is not the end. It's the proof that you saw through the lies, acted with courage, and built yourself into something unstoppable. So remember this. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've become cold. They'll say you've lost your softness. Good, because you weren't born to stay soft. You were born to become strong. You were born to master the game, not be mastered by it. This is what Machiavelli understood centuries ago, that the world will always belong to those who see it clearly, move strategically, and act without hesitation. The rest will watch, the rest will talk, the rest will obey. But you will own. And that's what it means to be truly, eternally untouchable.